The use of the word home and Maryland man, which is what the media has been saying all week, is patently false. He is not a Maryland man. As much as I'm not a member of the New England Patriots just because I root for them and may or may not go to a game or two in Foxborough, that doesn't make me a member of the team.
Right. He's a non-citizen of the United States. And it really strikes me, Sean, that the Democrats will orchestrate an elaborate international photo op on behalf of a non-citizen while refusing to stand for the grieving family members of Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal alien. So just from an optics PR standpoint, why did they think this was a good idea? And it's also a crock that Democrats are suddenly reverent toward our institutions. Oh, he's defying the courts, they say, of Trump. I'm sorry, isn't this the same party that called the Supreme Court illegitimate because it's a majority of conservatives? I thought the Supreme Court was invalid.
The Americans who voted for Donald Trump overwhelmingly in a mandate in November are going to watch this happen, and they are going to see these people continue with their treasonous behavior. You have these Democrats who want to say, no, we want the MS-13 gang member here. We miss him. We want him on our soil. It is absolutely absurd to me. And to Caroline's point, not only is this man voting against the Laken Riley Act, Van Hollen, He's voting against the Laken Riley Act. He also had a woman who was brutally murdered in his own state of Maryland, Rachel Morin.
All right, guys, it is Thursday. We've entered the Holy Triduum here. Easter is just upon us. Tomorrow is Good Friday, obviously. Big show coming your way tomorrow. Big news coming out of Washington this morning. The president apparently and his team, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, stepped in to halt an Israeli strike that was set for Iran. A lot of reporting that says this may have actually prevented a huge catastrophe. I mean, some are literally equating it to World War III, but that's a big deal. Obviously, a lot to break into today. Real quick, for those of you guys, I want to thank everyone who's been supporting my effort with pancreatic cancer research. I'm going to walk in a couple of weeks. If you go to pancan.seanspicer.com, you can join the team. Whether or not you can walk or not, we'd love to have you there. My father passed away from pancreatic cancer. This is my way of giving back to help find a cure for that horrible disease. And then, by the way, tomorrow, Andrew Klavan's going to join us. And I also have some behind-the-scenes photos from the White House from my visit and time with President Trump earlier this week that I'm going to share with you guys, both in the newsletter and in the show. Go to seanspicer.com. Before we get into it with the panel, I got to tell you about my buddy Leo Grillo. You've heard about him before. He is an amazing man that has rescued thousands and thousands of animals, dogs, cats. It all started with one dog he named Delta. And now Leo has made a living by creating the world's largest no-kill sanctuary. I said sanctuary, not shelter, because they're not looking to adopt these animals. They're looking to take care of malnutritious, abused, neglected animals, dogs, cats, horses, you name it. Delta Rescue is amazing. If you go to deltarescue.org, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's the place, but it doesn't get any like USAID money or political pro subscriptions. This place is literally all on its own. And it solely relies on contributions from people like me and you. I've made a personal contribution to Delta Rescue, going to deltarescue.org to check it out. So please consider joining me and going to deltarescue.org, making a contribution. And you'll see up there little estate planning tab. If you can have an old 401k or stock that you can equally share, please consider doing that. They've got some great tax advantages if you consult your tax professional to help make it an enduring mission if you can make that happen now. So anyway, before that happens, please can make a consideration, deltarescue.org. Lastly, I know this week was tax week for many of you. It was a relief to get it over. For millions of Americans, though, it's still a scary time because you have unfiled taxes or monies that you owe from previous years, not just this year. I'm telling you guys, having back taxes, unfiled returns is no place to be. The IRS, let's face it, Washington needs money to run, and the IRS is where we get it from. These guys are relentless. I've told you before, whether it's the DOJ or the IRS, you never want to go against the government on your own. The folks at Tax Network USA are the people that I think are the best in the business. They've got preferred direct lines into the IRS. They can stop the harassing phone calls, the letters, you name it. If you guys need help, if you haven't if you haven't filed taxes or you owe back time, there's still time for Tax Network USA. It's literally free to talk to one of the strategists. So no matter what day of the week it is or how many days past the deadline, you are never too late to reach out. So give them a call at 1-800-958-1000 or go to TN, that's Tax Network, TNUSA.com, Sean Spicer, /Sean Spicer, full name like Madonna, Sean Spicer. So TNUSA.com/Sean Spicer. You may have missed the April 15th deadline, but you haven't run out of options. Tax Network USA is the best in the business at getting you the help that you need to protect you from the folks at the IRS coming after you. All right, without further ado, I want to break in to our all-star panel as we head into this Easter weekend. Caroline Downey, the staff writer at the National Review and senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Sarah Gonzalez, our good friend there down there in Texas, the host of Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered on the Blaze TV. And Brett Scher, new to the show, longtime friend, the managing editor there at the Daily Wire. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we've entered the Easter Triduum. And, you know, for all the talk about Biden and his Catholic faith, and again, I've always said I'm not here to judge someone's relationship with God. But last night, the president held this Easter service. I want to play you guys a quick clip of Franklin Graham speaking there tonight.
There's been a spiritual drought in this city the last few years and in this house. And so I'm very grateful for the Easter declaration that you put out. Thank you. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we come tonight to say thank you. Thank you for sending your Son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to take our sins. That he died on the cross, shedding his own blood for each and every one. Buried in a tomb of sin. But on the third day, you raised him to life. And Father, we know that if we confess our sins and repent and believe on the name of your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, we shall be saved. And Father, it's my prayer tonight that many people this Easter would turn from their sins and by faith believe on the name of your Son. And it's his name that we pray. Amen.
All right. Sarah Gonzalez, I don't want to belabor this, but I do think that it's a huge shift. You're the guy that liked to talk about his faith a lot. And I think Donald Trump shows and embraces it and brings people in and created this first faith-based office within the West Wing. And I think to me, this is a big symbol of a return to what is right and good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd think about it, Sean, just last year, at this time last year, the Biden administration was issuing a proclamation for Trans Day of Visibility on Easter. That was what was happening with the previous administration. And now you have a president who, you know, something about 2 assassination attempts, I think maybe strengthens your relationship with the Lord. And you saw that change in President Trump. I'm sure I don't have to tell you, Sean, you live there. But in that area, every time I visit, it's like the air is different over there in DC. It just feels different. It feels much less demonic, as it turns out, when you have a president who, not that anyone needs permission to have a relationship with the Lord. Nobody needs permission, but there is something just so gratifying about a president who says, you know what, this week is Holy Week. We're not afraid to say it anymore. Just because we're in government doesn't mean that we can't be, outward about our relationship with God and encourage everyone else to. And it really is so encouraging to see. And, Donald Trump now has this perspective that he has walked through all of these trials and tribulations, and you can watch it. It's only made him, stronger in his faith. And it's just really, really refreshing to see.
Caroline Downey, do conservatives want to see this? I mean, I've never been a big public religious person. Maybe it's just Catholics aren't that way, but I feel like the White House, to Sarah's point, is openly wanting to embrace it and celebrate it and be public about it in a way that we haven't seen in quite some time.
Well, we know that Gen Z increasingly wants to see this because there's a religious revival going on among my generation. That's probably part of the cultural shift that drove a lot of the electoral turnout for Trump was Gen Z. And you may not want to judge, Sean, but I will. Biden openly flouted all of the central tenets of the Catholic faith and the Vatican, so much so that very prominent bishop barred him from receiving communion. Same thing with Nancy Pelosi, because those things are inherently contradictory. That what you are advocating on the life issue, the destruction of life, death, and what you are claiming to be publicly, it just was incoherent. And the other thing I'll say is, to Sarah's point about the transgender day of visibility, Biden was openly contemptuous of Americans of faith. And how he really showed that was in making gender ideology the new religion. Basically, that was the cult of the last 4 years that was instituted in K through 12, in academia. It was actually codified into the administration itself, at all the different agencies. And so that was the religion. So even if like the faith itself is absent and they're not really giving recognition to that, they're just replacing it with a new kind of religiosity, which is for gender ideology. And that's what we saw the last 4 years.
Brett, sure. At the Daily Wire, you guys have really leaned into culture. And I'm wondering if this is part of it, that we need to, as conservatives, be a little bit more open about our relationship with God and our faith, and talk more openly about it, because it almost feels like for the last few years or whatever, it was shunned. Like, DEI and wokeness was jammed down our throat, but being able to celebrate our faith was almost looked at as a negative in society. And I think it takes leadership to bring it back to the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's completely true. I'd say look at Daily Wire hosts. None of them shy away from their religion. Ben Shapiro obviously doesn't. Michael Knowles doesn't. Matt Walsh doesn't. But overall, as an outlet, it's not only not shying away from religion, it's not shying away from those culture issues. I mean, we both, Caroline and Sarah brought it up, but the Trans Day of Visibility proclamation on Easter, it was a lot of things that, some conservative outlets, and definitely not the mainstream media, were willing to call out just how absurd it was that they felt like it was appropriate to honor Trans Day of Visibility. But the Daily Wire's been at the forefront of criticizing this issue, and the voters were very clear last November. This was one of the most important things to voters across the country. And this is true of Gen Z all the way through, boomers. Nobody thinks that there should be men playing in women's sports. But yet it was an issue that some people felt they needed to shy away from. And it's the same thing. The White House does not need to shy away from Easter. And right. This White House is showing that this week.
All right, guys. Well, let's get back to some of the bigger issues this week. And I think the one that dominated most of the week was this, quote, Maryland man, the father of the year, who was mistakenly deported and was about to get an award from the Rotary and the Kiwanis Club for his great actions here. Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland, flies down to help his non-constituent. And I want to play you this clip because he's been fighting for this man. And I want to play you a little bit of what he had to say when he got down there.
I've had back-to-back meetings here in El Salvador with our team from the American Embassy, with the Vice President of El Salvador, with human rights groups. And the entire purpose has been to bring Abrego Garcia home, because U.S. courts have determined that he was illegally abducted from the United States and now finds himself in the most notorious prison in El Salvador. The Supreme Court, 9-0, has told the Trump administration they must facilitate his return home. They've refused to do it. So I called upon the government of El Salvador to do it unless they can provide evidence that he's been involved in MS-13. They said they had no evidence.
All right, so let's break this down, Caroline. The first thing I want to focus on is let's focus less on the evidence, because I want to get to that. The first thing was the key word that struck me in Senator Van Hollen was bring him home. He is not a Maryland man. He is a citizen of El Salvador. He is home. He may not like that his current home is the jail in El Salvador, but he is the use of the word home and Maryland man, which is what the media has been saying all week, is patently false. He is not a Maryland man. As much as I'm not a member of the New England Patriots just because I root for them and may or may not go to a game or two in Foxborough, that doesn't make me a member of the team.
Right. He's a non-citizen of the United States. And it really strikes me, Sean, that the Democrats will orchestrate an elaborate international photo op on behalf of a non-citizen while refusing to stand for the grieving family members of Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal alien. So just from an optics PR standpoint, why did they think this was a good idea? And it's also a crock that Democrats are suddenly reverent toward our institutions. Oh, he's defying the courts, they say, of Trump. I'm sorry, isn't this the same party that called the Supreme Court illegitimate because it's a majority of conservatives? I thought the Supreme Court was invalid. So now suddenly they're saying, no, we need to adhere to their rulings. You just can't play that game. Nobody takes them seriously. They have no credibility on the matter of our institutions. They want to axe the filibuster. They want to axe the Electoral College. Give me a break.
Yeah, Sarah, the thing that fascinates me is that, again, the verbiage, and we all are in the word game to some extent, but like when you start referring to someone as a Maryland man, bringing him home, due process in the courts, I kept thinking to myself, here are the facts. The Dems want to talk about the facts, okay? The facts are he has entered the United States illegally. A court ordered him to be deported, right? He is a citizen of El Salvador. Those are all factual things. And when he made the filing, we had this on the show earlier this week, with the court as to why he shouldn't be removed, he said, plain and simple, because I'm a member of a gang and I will get treated like. All of those things aren't, and I keep thinking to myself, after the election in November, Sarah, is this really what the party thinks is a winning message?
Unfortunately for them, Sean, I would say yes, but I would say that that's fortunate for us, because I would encourage them to keep leaning into this, continue to send all of these, you have Cory Booker and some of these other, senators who are like, we're going to travel over there and we're going to join in. Go for it. Please go ahead, because the Americans who voted for Donald Trump overwhelmingly in a mandate in November are going to watch this happen, and they are going to see these people continue with their treasonous behavior. This is, my opinion, not yours. Maybe I'll let you weigh in, but I believe this to be treasonous, that you are going to know that a man is a member of a very violent gang, send him back to where he came from, which, by the way, a thank you would be nice. Maybe thank you, President Trump, for sending me back to my home country. No thank you there. And then you have these Democrats who want to say, no, we want the MS-13 gang member here. We miss him. We want him on our soil. It is absolutely absurd to me. And to Caroline's point, not only is this man voting against the Laken Riley Act, this Senator Chris Van Hollen, he's voting against the Laken Riley Act. He also had a woman who was brutally murdered in his own state of Maryland, Rachel Morin.
Yeah, I want to play that. In fact, let's play this right now. Here she was. This is my checkmate moment, right? Yeah. That Van Hollen goes down there like Spartacus giving a speech on the floor for 25 hours. Like he's going to save this guy who's an MS-13 gang member. And yet the White House went, really? Checkmate. Let's see who they brought out. You mentioned her. Her name was Patty Morin. She spoke at the White House yesterday. Let's take a listen to her.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
Brett, sure, I don't understand it. Where's the media saying, hey, Senator Van Hollen, when this woman in Maryland, who's a U.S. citizen, a actual constituent, a voter in Maryland, gets killed, leaves 5 children without a mom, where was your sympathy then? Where was your concern then? But you'll rush down to El Salvador to fight for the release of a gang member from another country?
Yeah, I don't know if this was part of a grand White House strategy, but the Democrats got completely played here. They went all out in defense of this guy, calling him a Maryland man, a Maryland father, without bothering to go find the evidence to actually know that he wasn't a gang member. Now the White House is busting out all the evidence and making it pretty clear that he's in MS-13. He was involved likely in human trafficking, in drug dealing. And then yesterday, they bust this mother out in the White House briefing room. Our White House correspondent, Mary Margaret Olahan, she called me emotionally last night and told me there were tears from reporters in the room, in the briefing room. So, I mean, Democrats went all out in support of this guy, and now the White House is laying all their cards on the table, and it's a complete win. And now Democrats have gone too far. They can't really backtrack on this. So all of a sudden, Chris Van Hollen and the rest of the Democrats there are, you know, gung-ho in support of an MS-13 El Salvadorian terrorist. And I mean, you can't think of a bigger win for the White House.
Caroline Downey, I like, they kept saying, like, we don't know if he's a gang member. First of all, again, he broke the law. He was ordered to be deported. According to the guests that were on the show the other day, he literally allocated in court that he was afraid to go back to El Salvador because he was a gang. But now we actually have documentation from Prince George's County, Maryland's gang unit, put it on the screen, that like he literally was identified as a gang member when he was rolled up there, and his wife made accusations of domestic violence. And this is who they want to fight for.
Right. It's their choice of poster child, which is just so baffling to me. And you could argue that this was a challenging test case for the Trump administration initially because of what that court argued, which wasn't that he couldn't be deported, is that he couldn't go to El Salvador. But that's a whole nother can of worms, because we have some activist judges in this country that are openly putting their politics and ideology above interpreting the law, which is their only role. And you know, you saw the case about the, temporary protected status. A lot of the judges on that case, which is a whole nother battle that Trump is going to have, are not even doing their job. So that being said, to Brent's point, it just was a Hail Mary for the Trump administration. And the fact that the Democrats made this guy like an angel, like some sort of like Mr. Rogers character, it's just absurd. And it was never going to work because the evidence has been produced. He was accused of domestically abusing his significant other at the time. Not once did she file a restraining order, but twice, or was a domestic violence case. So not good.
You know, the funny thing, Sarah, you're down there in Texas. You guys are well aware of the border issues. The election, I think some people say immigration was the key issue. If not the number one, it was definitely the number two issue, right? The idea of open borders, people flooding into this country, fentanyl flowing in, blah, blah, blah. But then here is the takeaway. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, literally making the case that, you know, right now I think is the leading Democratic voice. Take a listen to what she had to say.
They admit that they've thrown Mahmoud in a cell thousands of miles away from his family because he attended a protest and they did not like the content of his speech. But I want to be very clear, Folsom. Donald Trump's detention of Mahmoud Khalil for his speech is anti-American, and we demand his release, along with the release of Rumeisa Ozturk, who he is also jailing for writing an op-ed in her school paper. And we also demand the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. And we tell President Bukele, if we believe in democracy, he must be returned. It is criminal that he is being held abroad.
Okay, so Sarah Gonzalez, it's criminal that he's being held, but he's actually a criminal. I just, from a political standpoint, I don't know what I mean, I literally at some point want like a real foe, right? I mean, like, I'm like, okay, you guys lost the election. And could you, like, I honestly, and I'm being serious on this, I'm like, you can't be this stupid, can you? I guess maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you can.
They're showing that they can right now. But here's their problem, Sean. They have made, for all of these years, since 2016, they have made their entire identity hating Donald Trump. That has been the entire identity of the Democrat Party is orange man bad. Whatever Donald Trump says, we are going to fight against, even if it makes perfect sense. And you're seeing the end result of that. You're seeing that play out, that after November, when all of America said, yeah, we're tired of the open borders, we're tired of your radical ideology, we're tired of pretending like dressing little boys up like girls is normal, we're tired of this, we're choosing sanity, and sanity prevailed. That's why they can't course correct, Sean, because they have been so wrapped up in ideology is no policies, no actual platforms, except whatever Donald Trump says is mean and evil, and we have to fight against it. That's all that they have now. And that's what you're seeing play out here. And that's why they cannot course correct. And again, I would just say, please keep this up, because they will never win another election again. And by the way, Sean,
I agree with you. It's like, keep going, guys, keep going.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to add to all of these congressmen or senators who are traveling to El Salvador to try to talk to foreign officials. I would like for the Trump administration to investigate every single one of those for a violation of the Logan Act, because they are not supposed to be going over there without permission from the president and trying to negotiate with foreign officials. So Lord knows that they've tried to hit Donald Trump on every single thing that they could possibly think of. So why don't we go ahead and investigate them for violation of the Logan Act if they think that they want to come and negotiate to bring criminals back to America?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're right. I mean, it's a foreign government. He's a foreign citizen. Okay, the stupidity, though, Brett Sure, doesn't just end on immigration. Taylor Lorenz, who got fired from the New York Times, fired from the Washington Post, has taken to making the case for Luigi Mangione. She wants to make him a hero. This is the kid who, in cold blood, killed on a sidewalk in New York the CEO of United Healthcare. This is this genius making the case for him.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer, when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals, as if we don't have, we don't stand murderers of all sorts, and we give them Netflix shows. There's a huge disconnect between the narratives and angles that sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel.
The women who got her outside court in New York.
So you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
Okay. Brett Sure, a handsome, morally good man who just killed a man in cold blood on the streets of New York. Say what you will about healthcare, anything else. She's making this guy like he's a Hollywood star. He killed a man with a family for no reason.
Yeah, I'll say first, it's good to see Taylor Lorenz without the mask on, but she was on Hi, that's a fair point, Sean. She was on Hannity last night, and he kept challenging her to be like, but you don't actually think it was justified. And she could not say that she doesn't believe that. She just can't get it out of her mouth. And I think what this really is it's a good window into what New York Times journalists and what Washington Post journalists actually think. She wrote at both of those places for years, and you could say she was chased out, but now CNN is running these glowing profiles of her as if she's this voice of a new generation. I don't think she's actually right. I don't think that young people in this country actually love Luigi Mangione that much. I think everybody agrees that he murdered somebody in cold blood, and that's not okay. She's obsessed with she's so excited about talking about the problems in the healthcare industry as if that makes this justified. But I don't actually think she did much reporting back when Obama was passing Obamacare and basically ruining our entire healthcare system. It's just now that she thinks it's this trendy thing. And she says in that clip, she's never seen more audience growth than when she started talking about this, because she's the only person talking about this. And there are some insane people on the internet who like hearing what they believe. But this is not a mainstream position, and that's why she's no longer employed by any outlet. I don't know. This is the craziest I've ever seen Taylor Lorenz, and that's saying something.
I will say, to your point, Brett, that like one of the things that happens when these guys leave the outlets like New York Times, Washington Post, CBS, whatever, and then they're on their own and they speak quote unquote for themselves and they can say the crazy leftist stuff, is that you realize they, for all the talk, they really were that way in their coverage while they were there. They don't hide it as much once they leave. And you can see it now and go, okay, that's what she was doing at the Washington Post and the New York Times. But you mentioned young people, and this kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to get on, which is this whole fight with Harvard. And again, you want to talk about a dumb fight to pick. Caroline, I cannot believe Harvard thinks that it's going to win this fight. They get $9 billion, B with a billion. The Trump administration said they're going to freeze $2.2 billion because they won't commit to curbing anti-Semitism at Harvard. And I think to myself, do you guys not know how to read the room? Because there's not a lot of many people that probably were on your side to begin with. And when they hear that you get $9 billion and that Trump's freezing it because you're not curbing anti-Semitism, that's not going to go over well.
It's amazing, Sean, how many prestigious institutions don't seem to know the conditions of the government gravy train. Harvard's sending out this statement acting like they're being taken over by the federal government when, in fact, no, you receive $9 billion from the taxpayers, and those come with strings attached, such as you will not cover for terrorist sentiment on your campus, et cetera, et cetera. And if they want independence, there's another way. Hillsdale College has set out that path, which is to not receive a single dime of taxpayer dollars. And then you don't have to meet any of the demands of the federal government. You can operate entirely autonomously. But Harvard doesn't want to do that. They want to pretend like they're being demonized and that, the Trump administration hates higher education. It's like, I'm sorry, you're a propaganda machine. All you do is churn out ideologues. You don't actually advocate for real learning. Hillsdale emphasizes the Western canon and the great books and actually teaches how to be a part of civil society. Harvard is just creating little radicals, just like all the other Ivy Leagues, complete waste of time. And the fact that they had encampments laying siege to the campus for months on end proves that they're just a glorified daycare. So, I think it's a good thing that Harvard's getting a reality check, which is that, these grants are not an entitlement. They're a privilege.
Sarah, I'm going to call this episode Checkmate because this is my second checkmate moment here. And then I got one more to play with you guys. But this is one we talked about. The Chris Van Hollen moment, right? And the White House basically goes out and says, okay, you want to travel down there? Guess what? Here's Patty Morin, who you never called, right? Boom, checkmate. Here in this case, Harvard said, well, we'll be fine because we have a $58 billion endowment. And then the White House said, oh, okay, we'll take away your tax-exempt status. And the IRS is going to start looking into that. And I went, oh, didn't see that one coming. Checkmate again. This was beautiful. The IRS is moving to strip Harvard's status. Now, they may or may not be successful. From what I understand, this thing gets massively litigated. But the bottom line, Sarah, is that this just threw a whole new financial wrinkle in Harvard's thinking.
Yeah, it couldn't happen to a more deserving place, really, with Harvard. As Caroline pointed out, is they're just creating and indoctrinating little radicals. I don't know why parents continue to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their children there to just get radicalized instead of get an actual education. And so, you're watching this play out. It really is fascinating to me that these people, I'm like, do you know who President Trump is? Have you seen him for more than 5 seconds? Because you got to know who you're dealing with and that he's not going to back down.
Right.
You see this play out with Maine as well, where the governor is like, well, we're not taking men out of women's sports. We're just going to keep that up. And President Trump is like, Okay, see you in court. You have Secretary McMahon. Okay, see you in court. These are very competent people who are not going to just let all of these states, let the Harvards of the world just dictate the terms of this taxpayer money. They've done it for too long, and now you've got a new sheriff in town. And I guess the Harvard and the others have chosen, I'll be clean on this, Sean, but the FAFO method, and I'm here for it. I'm here with the popcorn like, okay, we'll see who cries wolf or who plays chicken first, because like President Trump is going to win this one, and I'm here for the fight. This is a fight that has needed to happen for a very long time. These public institutions are taking way too much taxpayer money, and we're not making our kids any brighter when they come out of these schools.
By the way, if you didn't get the reference that Sarah made, just Google FAFO. Make sure small kids aren't in the room. You'll get it. Brett, sure, this is the funny thing to me. Like, law firms have caved. They kind of got the memo. And these guys at Harvard and in academia, because there were, what's it here? A bunch of other universities jumped in and are signing a letter supporting Harvard, Columbia saying they're backing off. And I'm like, okay, great. I agree with Caroline on this. Go the route of Hillsdale. Right? Don't take the federal money. But if you take the federal money, you get it. Remember, Biden weaponized all of this. He started watering down Title IX. He started talking about DEI and wokeism on campus and defending. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And now these guys in academia, great. Sarah's right. They're not going to back down. No one is agreeing that Harvard and Yale should be getting billions of dollars and we're going to fight hard for them. Like the average working man and woman out there isn't going, yeah, I busted my hump for 2 jobs this week so that Harvard gets $9 billion and can be a cesspool of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, you're completely right. And there's literally going to be zero sympathy for Harvard losing billions of dollars. But what there is going to be is a lot of new awareness. I would guess that most taxpayers in this country don't know that all these Ivy League institutions that they've always viewed as, unattainable, are getting billions of dollars every year. I don't think that is a known fact for most Americans. But the more they make this a fight with Trump, who's the best at getting attention on an issue, probably of any person in the world, the harder this is going to be for Harvard. Because if the whole country knows that they're getting billions, I don't think it matters if they give in and are willing to accept new terms. The people are not going to stand for it. Ivy League institutions should not be getting any money from taxpayers, much less billions of dollars. So this is not going to work out for Harvard in the long run.
I mentioned I actually have 2 more checkmates. And the first one, I think, Sarah, you were the one who first name checked her. But Letitia James went after Donald Trump in an epic way. And I think it was pretty pathetic how she did it in New York. Well, guess what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, because the Trump administration just announced that they're going after Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, because she filed. Remember, they went after Donald Trump because all of this business stuff and saying that technically he misfiled some stuff and all this, whatever. Well, guess what? Tish James, the Attorney General in New York, filed a mortgage application for a house in Virginia, claiming that Virginia was her home of record when clearly she's an elected official in New York. And I feel like, again, this is just another checkmate moment.
Yeah, I mean, they are the party of projection. I've been saying this for a very long time. The Democrats are the party of projection. Whatever they are projecting that we are doing, they're claiming that Donald Trump is a criminal because he's, applying for something and misrepresenting his financial status. Whatever they are accusing us of doing, they are quietly doing in the background. It's projection. And so you see that playing out with Letitia James. And so I'm just going to say, it couldn't happen again to a more deserving group of people. We're watching this happen all the time. And there are some on the conservative side who say, well, I mean, we don't want to get in power and do the same things to them that they did to us. Well, what if they are the real criminals? What are we supposed to do? Not prosecute
why
crime?
do we have to be the ones every time to stop? I'm so tired of
Exactly.
this. Yes, you guys weaponize this, do that, do this. And then they go, but you guys shouldn't do it back. And I'm like, I'm sorry. We've done this for too long.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, I want to get into my media section, and that's why I'm so excited about you guys as the panel, because we got the Daily Wire, the National Review, and the Blaze all represented. So this is fun, and this is my last checkmate of the day, although as we enter the media section. The AP, so the White House and Caroline Downey, you guys know this, Brett, you got a reporter there. Blaze has got someone. I mean, like, okay, so let's just set the scene. The Associated Press, when the White House redid the pool, the number of people that get to travel into the Oval Office, Air Force One, to the confined spaces, said, okay, AP, you're no longer guaranteed to be part of the pool. Well, they whined and sued and said, we have to be. We're the Associated Press. Where else are people going to get their liberal news from? Despite, as I've said in the past, the fact that no one said a peep when 440 independent journalists got their passes removed by Biden. I digress. But so here's the deal. They go to court and the AP says, like, we have to be let in. I know that the president's office is technically his office, but we get to go. Well, here's the thing, Caroline. Again, this is the checkmate. What did the White House do? So you used to have this pool, right? Radio gets someone in there, the photographers, the TV, and then they had wires and print. Okay. So the print is what you would assume, the Washington Post, the New York Times, whatever. And then the wires all got to come together. Reuters, AP, right? They all kind of got to go in as the wire reporters. Well, what the White House did is say, okay, checkmate. We're now folding the wires into print. That means 33 outlets now rotate. So yeah, AP, you can come in once every 33 days. And here we go. Now the AP, it's like, I love the game that they're playing. It's checkers to me, Caroline. It's not, what do we do? Do we cave? Do we do this? They said, okay, AP, great. We'll just fold this in. And now you can't claim that you're being discriminated because you'll be one of 33 now instead of one every day.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting to me is how innovative the Trump administration is with like the way it's playing this game with some of these outlets and across the board. I think it's just taken a very creative approach to policy. And, it's not afraid to escalate these fights because, I mean, honestly, that was the whole MO of this campaign, this administration, which is we will be aggressive and we're not going to back down and be complacent like maybe previous administrations have been. And when it comes to the AP, it's like, I think it was Caroline Levitt who said, you guys don't acknowledge biological reality. Like a lot of your people still use pronouns in their bios. They say that women are chest feeders or, like pregnant people. So like and that was what was so funny about the whole kerfuffle over the Gulf of America thing and how the AP was refusing to recognize it as such is this is not a neutral outlet. This is a propaganda rag, a progressive outlet, wire service, okay, that's masquerading as being neutral or not taking a stand. And they've never cared about precision of language. As I just said, like they are very quick to take the progressive language, whether it comes to, gender ideology or, I think they called Kamala Harris a centrist at one point. So it's just, they have no credibility.
I love the fact that you bring that up. I've always said the adjectives matter, right? He's a fighter for this, right wing that. Mike Allen from the administration, from the Axios the other day was talking about Elon Musk gutting the federal government. They use adjectives to disparage conservative ideas, policies, and people and talk up the other folks. But so there was a tweet that went out yesterday after a story from the New York Times. Peter Hamby, who's had been with CNN forever, tweeted out that said Sean Spicer beaming local reporters in the press briefing was smart and good back when I was there, right? I brought in people through Skype. The press corps hated it. Caroline took it a step further by creating this new media seat. The White House, the New York Times did a big profile on it yesterday, and they analyzed everybody that was in the new media seat, including Mike Allen of Axios, left-leaning, and they call it a digital news site. Matt Boyle from Breitbart, a right-winger. John Ashbrook from the Ruthless podcast, he was on the show just a little while ago. He's right-wing. Sage Steele from ESPN, she's right-wing. Chris Pavulski from Rumble, right-wing. And then they start to go to like Shelby Talcott of Semaphore Ben Smith, who was with the New York Times, whenever left-leaning, they call it a digital news site. And they keep going down the list of everybody who is, quote, mainstream. And then everyone who leans right is called out, including Mary Margaret Olohan. It says the Daily Wire, right wing. Like they despise, wouldn't a press, to me, the thing that's amazing is if I actually cared about the First Amendment and freedom of the press, I'd want more voices in there. But they're so disparaging about anybody that's not part of the left-wing legacy media. If you're not part of the pack mentality to make sure that everybody only sees, reads, and hears left-wing propaganda, then you're evil and bad. And this was their little attempt at it.
Well, I can answer it because I was a member of the New Media Podcast Row that the White House did several weeks ago. I went to the White House and I interviewed Secretary Kennedy and Secretary McMahon. And so it was just what I saw when I walked into the White House was a very young, very vibrant staff. You had all of these young people who were unlike the previous administration, who were very competent, who were very knowledgeable, who were very, everyone was zipping around. It was a really beautiful sight to see. And so what I saw was a masterclass in just embracing what needed to be embraced. For so long, you have all of these news outlets who are pretending to be impartial, non-biased, but everybody knows that that's not the case. And you have a White House who's saying, okay, we're not going to pretend anymore. We really don't care. We don't care what they call us. We don't care the names, the insults that they hurl our way. We're just going to do what we are here to do. And so they're bringing in the new media. I got to go in there. I'm just a girl from Texas.
Oh,
so the
come
fact
on. You're
that
not
I was
just a girl
walking
from Texas.
For me, I'm a mom from Texas. Just, I couldn't believe that I was in the White House interviewing cabinet secretaries. And I have the Trump administration to thank for that because they're saying, we don't care. We don't care anymore.
We're going to bring an audience. That's what matters.
Well, right, exactly. But they're saying you guys were doing it all along and we all know you just were pretending like you weren't. And we're just going to embrace it at this point. I just love to see it.
All right, I'm sorry Brett's dropped off because this is my favorite part. I do winners and losers every Thursday, as you guys know. Caroline, I want to start with you. Who do you think won the week and who lost the week?
I think the person who won the week was Mrs. Morin, who obviously gave that very beautiful tribute to her child and really schooled the legacy media masquerading as representative of the public, which is actually Democratic media, basically state-run media, and just put them all in their place, had them silent, speechless, because it really takes an emotional testimony like that to put it all in perspective. Yes. You guys are busy in your kind of online echo chambers trying to glorify a man as like some sort of like family guy when like there are real victims of the illegal.
Who won, in your opinion? Who is the winner? The loser. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. The loser. I think the loser is the senator from Maryland. I think it was ultimate buffoonery. And I think it's
bad staffing, by the way, bad staffing.
Yeah. Yes. Very bad staffing.
All right. Sarah Gonzalez, who's your winner and loser?
Yeah, my winner is Kilmar Abrego Garcia because he gets to actually be home. He's home now on his home turf. And I'm really, really happy for him that he is now home. My loser is anyone who is still, again, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to send their children to an indoctrination camp called Harvard.
I agree. All right. I actually was going to name AOC. All these people with pronouns still in their bios losers because Caroline won't call on them. And I think that's awesome. She's like, if you have pronouns in your bio, I'm not calling on you. But my big loser of the week is Joe Biden. The guy jumped back on stage this week and it was an absolute disaster and a reminder why he should have not run for re-election. But he was definitely the loser of the week. And my winner of the week is hands down. As you can tell, I called it the checkmate over and over again, whether it was Abrego Garcia and how they brought her that mom, angel mom, out, or whether it was how they handled the AP. It was like checkmate, checkmate, checkmate. Really well thought of, really well strategized this week. So my hat off to the Trump administration. Thank you guys for being with us. Brett I don't think he was ready for winners and losers, and he's probably back there. So I appreciate this. I hope you both have a happy Easter. As a reminder, guys, tomorrow Andrew Klavan's going to join us for the whole hour. A lot to break down. He's got a brand new book, perfect for Good Friday as well. Remember to sign up in advance of tomorrow for the newsletter, SeanSpicer.com. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.